Hello. Welcome back to Two Nates on Sports. My name is Nathan Simmons, and with me as always is Nathan Kwan. We have a lot to discuss this week, but let's start off with Texas basketball, which always finds a way to disappoint me and Kwan. So let's start off with some good news. They were able to beat a struggling Oklahoma team and held the Sooners to 31% shooting. Take us through that game.
Well, after what happened on Wednesday night, I'm beginning to think that was more of an anomaly based on how bad Oklahoma's been the past month and a half. I think they're on like a 6-game losing streak at this point. Everything that they were at the beginning of the year with Trae Young and that high-flying offense scoring nearly 90 points a game, it's completely disappeared. And Trae Young has struggled as the Big 12 defenses has kind of adjusted to his game. But Dylan Osikowski in that game woke up from his hibernation, scored 21 points. I don't know where that came from. And then Mo Bamba had 18 rebounds. They got good shooting from the outside, and they got some points in the paint, which they desperately needed. So that stopped the bleeding temporarily, but Wednesday night wasn't good, right?
No, it wasn't. This definitely, as you said, was more of an indictment on how bad Oklahoma was than how good Texas was. I mean, kudos to players on this team for bouncing back. I mean, Dylan Osikowski with the 21 points. Most of those points came in the second half, and a lot of them came from behind the three-point arc. Mo Bamba put up 10 points, 18 rebounds. I mean, Mo is Mo at this point. But, at the same time, too, it's just, this is a difficult team to really follow at this point for specifically what happened in the next game after this. Some of the problems that Texas had the entire season really came to a head against Kansas State. And against Kansas State, they were up 2 points with 5 minutes to go, 44-42, and it got ugly real quick.
Yeah, no, the Longhorns just couldn't score, and that's been their problem all year long. They went absolutely cold from the field, and obviously Kansas State wasn't shooting lights out either. Some of that credit to Texas defense, but outscored 14-4 in the final minutes. Just overall offensively, 2 for 19 shooting threes. You're not going to win many games shooting like that. 29% overall. Osikowski, that was definitely an anomaly last Saturday. He went back to his bricklaying, 4-15. Curran Roach, who earlier in the week I had looked on NBADraft.net, and somehow, some ways, he had been listed as a early second-round pick. He certainly raised his stock with shooting a 2 for 13 on Wednesday. Eric Davis 1 for 8. We're going to get to him in a bit. And then Mo Bamba only had 4 shots on the inside. What the heck? He's your best player. That's just not good. And at this point, this team is 6-9 over on the Big 12. Been mentioning 9-9 to get in the tournament all year long. Well, they're going to have to finish 3-0 and beat Oklahoma State today, and then at Kansas, West Virginia. So that's impossible. So at this point, I think, given their remaining schedule, they need 3 wins to get in. So Joe Lunardi has them on the bubble, first 4 out at this point. And so let's just ignore the possibility of winning at Kansas. That's not possible. I don't think this team has won there in like 12 years. And this team certainly is not doing that. Oklahoma State game today obviously is a must win. That's a terrible team. And granted, Oklahoma State has pulled some upsets this year. They won at Kansas. They just beat Texas Tech. And they beat the Longhorns earlier this year. But if they lose today, they're done. So that's a must win. So then in order to get to 3 more wins, which I think will lock them down into the tournament, there's 2 scenarios. One is they beat West Virginia in the final day of the season, which is no easy task given that they lost by 35 last time they played. And then 1 win in the Big 12 tournament. So that would probably be a rematch against Oklahoma State. So that'd be 2 wins against Oklahoma State and 1 against West Virginia. Scenario 2 is they lose to West Virginia, in which case they would need 2 wins in the Big 12 tournament. So they would need to beat Oklahoma State again. And then in their second round matchup, as probably an 8 seed, they're going to have to beat either Kansas or Texas Tech, which is no easy task given the talent on those teams. And both those teams are the top 15 in the country. And even the optics of that scenario, I think, are kind of iffy because the Longhorns would have a 7-11 conference record. So I'm not really even sure that gets them in. So at this point, I would say NIT bound. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, this team is definitely NIT bound. This is just god awful. Like, I mean, how do you not even like put up like how do you end up putting up 4 points in the last 5 minutes of the game? And for pretty much most of that, it was basically those points came in the last 2 minutes. So for 3 minutes, you're not even putting the ball through the hoop. I mean, at a loss of words for this, and I think a lot of this does fall on Shaka Smart. I mean, like, what are you doing to game plan? Like, again, Mo Bamba only got four shots the entire game, and it makes no sense that like your best player is only getting 4 shots. And yeah, he's not necessarily the best offensive player out there, but I mean, at this point, no one else on your team is either. I mean, Dylan Ostakowski, like you pointed out, is a bricklayer. And has zero confidence in a shot at this point. I mean, he passes up open threes because he knows he's going to miss it, and for all intents and purposes, he's right. And Kerwin Rhodes, like, is the most Jekyll and Hyde player I've seen in a while. Just no consistency. I mean, the bench, nothing really coming off the bench. So really, this team is really just up the creek without a paddle. And so like Shaka could do a better job of game planning and maybe getting the ball more to Mo Bamba, but I mean, he's not getting Mo Bamba open. He's not putting up sets beyond just pick and rolls, and it's just sort of disgusting. It's disgusting to see at this point. I mean, I don't want to say that Shaka Smart's going in the same direction as Charlie Strong, but I mean, like, the reason that Rick Barnes was getting fired was because he missed the tournament, or when he got to the tournament, he would only make it to the first or second round. And I mean, it's looking more and more and more likely that Shaka Smart's one time that he made it to the Final Four was just an anomaly based off of hot shooting from the 3-point line. I don't know what to expect out of Shaka going forward. I don't think he should necessarily be fired or anything like that. I think at this point you kind of have to let him ride out his contract and see how it goes, if he can turn it around, or maybe if you can hire an assistant that knows how to game plan offenses better than Shaka can at this point. But I mean, it's not looking good.
Right, riding out his contract. He's under contract till 2022, 2023 because he got a contract extension after his first year. So I don't know about that. If he keeps going like this, missing the tournament, I would give him, regardless of what happens the rest of this year, I think they're going to miss the tournament again. So that'd be 2 years in a row. Next year, they got to make it for sure. It's not that hard to make the NCAA tournament now, especially now it's been expanded to 68 teams. They might get in with a 7-11 conference record. It's not that hard. I know they play in a really tough league, but it's not that difficult. And you look at what Texas Tech is doing this year, and a first-year coach, and they're top 10 in the country. You got to have the players, and that's in recruiting, and obviously that's a big deal. But again, you mentioned the game planning. Sometimes it just seems like they're not running any offense. It's not just that they don't have any talented shooters. They don't have any like plays that they can run and get easy baskets. But speaking of disgusting, college basketball is, well, we know about college athletics. It's not clean. It's dirty, and this FBI probe is not looking good for a lot of the blue bloods in college basketball. But amongst the teams that were named as having violations was the Texas Longhorns and one Eric Davis. You have any thoughts on this situation?
I mean, I'm just confused. Like, why would you pay X amount of money to bring in Eric Davis? I mean, it just makes no sense. If I remember correctly, it was because, I mean, like, it's not really worth missing postseason play just because of Eric Davis. I'll be the first to say that. But I mean, like, they're definitely not in as bad a position as, say, Arizona, the University of Arizona with Sean Miller, who they paid $100,000 to a agent to bring in DeAndre Ayton. And I mean, like, talk about a rough week for a team. I mean, you look at University of Arizona. First, they had Alonzo Trier get test positive for a banned substance and getting knocked out, and now it's looking more than likely that they're going to get hit with a ban hammer real soon, real heavily. But with Texas, I don't know. I don't know who paid anyone for Eric Davis. I don't know what money was exchanged for Eric Davis.
There's documents that say it's $1,500. So
Yeah.
let me preface by saying I do not condone cheating of any matter. Like, you can say, yeah, the NCAA exploits athletes because it doesn't pay them and has all this money. That's a separate discussion. The rules we're under is that you cannot do anything to pay athletes to get them to come to your universities. And I don't care if it's $2 million. I don't care if it's $500. Breaking the rules is breaking the rules. So your argument about Arizona cheated more than Texas did, that doesn't matter to me. Like, you're a cheater.
Well,
you're a cheater.
I'm not saying that just because Arizona cheated more doesn't mean that Texas shouldn't be targeted for this. But at the same time, I'm also saying that I don't really know exactly the details of the investigation.
Right. And I don't want to jump to conclusions. The whole concept of cheating, and these are your marquee names, and you would think that the programs that get the best players, Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Michigan State, Kansas, and I mean, it just kind of makes sense that all those great teams getting those top prospects are involved in a scandal. As far as the Texas angle, again, not condoning cheating at all, but if you're going to cheat, are you going to really cheat with Eric Davis? This guy's not good. I mean, I don't understand. Like, if you cheating with like a top tier guy, okay, but I mean, Eric Davis, really?
Yeah, and like it shouldn't depend on like how good your cheating is. Cheating is cheating, you know.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, too, I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see such a blatant disregard for the rules. And I mean, again, I get it. Like, the NCAA's, it's not good. NCAA is not good at all. But yeah, I'm frustrated with this team. It's just top down. You know,
they play today against Oklahoma State, again, a must win, and then they're at Kansas on Monday. That's going to be a slaughter. And then West Virginia next week, and then the Big 12 tournament after that. We'll see if they get in the tournament, and March Madness is just around the corner. Oh, and I guess we should mention that Eric Davis will be sitting out during this investigation.
Big loss right there. Yeah.
Well, really, in the grand scheme, not a huge loss, but then really it kind of is, because he's your second best 3-point shooter on this team.
Yeah,
so
I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, at the same time too, I don't care anymore about this team. So like let's talk about professional basketball where there's no scandals happening.
We'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a scandalous team. The Houston Rockets have won 11 in a row. They're one of the hottest teams in the league, and they've regained the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Talk us through it.
Yes, sir. So they started their second half. I guess not really second half. They shifted around the All-Star break this year. So there's only like 30 games left in the season. But they started off with another win. They extended their winning streak to 11 games with a comprehensive win over the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. Pretty close throughout, and it kind of mirrored the games earlier this year against the Timberwolves, where the Rockets fell behind in the first half, but towards the end of the half, they had to put a run together and took the lead in the halftime, and then in the second half, they just took over. Clint Capella, again, continues his strong play. He's developing into a legitimate 2010 guy, 25 points, 11 rebounds last night. James Harden had a rough shooting game, only 8 of 24, but had 31 points. And then Chris Paul had 14 points and 8 assists. Trevor Ariza came off the injury, scored 11. And the Rockets, again, are 10-man deep now. Joe Johnson coming off the bench in 22 minutes, getting 10 points. The Rockets didn't have Eric Gordon, but they didn't have any problems with Timberwolves. Minnesota, big injury for them, as Jimmy Butler went down with an injury in the third quarter, holding his knee. If that's a torn ACL, that's a big blow for a Timberwolves team that has been so good this year, 4th in the West. The 3 through 10 spots in the West, I think, are separated by only like 4.5 games. So it's going to be a sprint to the finish for the rest of those playoff teams. But as far as the Rockets, very, very good win last night. And they go on the road now. This upcoming week, they play in Denver, and then one of the other hotter teams in the league that had a 10-game winning streak, but they lost last night. They play in Utah on Monday, and then at the Clippers on Wednesday. So road trip coming up for the Rockets. But As of now, still the number 1 seed, and right now looking very, very good.
Yeah, no, hats off to this team. Yeah, no, absolutely, just on fire. I mean, Clint Capella has been a real great story for this team and surprise. But yeah, no, I mean, James Harden, I think, is probably MVP of the season this year. I mean, definitely deserved it last year. So I mean,
I don't want to jinx it, which me mentioning this that will probably jinx it. But as this season continues to progress, I'm beginning to feel these vibes that I felt with the Astros earlier this year. And I don't know if this is just the championship fervor just continuing to make me feel overconfident, but like this team is legitimately one of the best basketball teams I've ever watched. And they can take down Golden State.
Sure, yeah, no, definitely. Go for it. Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, let's move on to the Mavs. Where to begin? I'll begin with the one that really needs to be addressed first. So SI, Sports Illustrated, came out recently with a story about how the Dallas Mavericks had a very toxic work culture, specifically towards women. This specifically was due to keeping people with predatory behavior on staff for years, some as long as 18 years. Specifically, it was president of the business side of the team, Usuri. I don't remember his first name. I don't really care to learn it. Also, they kept one of the reporters who pretty much beat and had domestic violence of his partners multiple times, and only recently fired him once the report came to light. I'm really disappointed in this team. I know this wasn't on the people that play on the court, or or Rick Carlisle or anything on this, but I can't help but feel really disappointed in this organization and really disgusted. Honestly, I mean, I've been a fan since 2002, 2003, but that really is irrelevant. I mean, I've been disgusted at programs before that I've never been a fan of, and this is no different. I'm really disgusted with this team. I mean, personally, I don't want to say it makes it harder to be a fan, but I mean, in ways it does. It's especially when you consider how hands-on Mark Cuban is with this team, and somehow he doesn't know about it, which I find it hard to believe. If it turns out Mark Cuban, I mean, like, even at this point, like, I've defended Mark Cuban enough times. I'm not going to defend him now. I'm done defending Mark Cuban. Like, he should have known, period. Like, I feel, I mean, granted, I understand that a lot of bosses, if they're maybe he might have been more focused on the basketball side of things. I mean, I don't even see how I mean, unless like HR just genuinely put it under the rug, which, I mean, granted, that's what they kind of did, but I mean, I find it hard to believe that this did not get to Mark Cuban, specifically with Earl Sneed. Earl Sneed, I mean, like, he got arrested twice from domestic violence, and they put it into his contract specifically, hey, stop beating women, and they still gave him a contract. That's what really frustrates me with this team. Like, they knew, and they decided to still employ for all intents and purposes, a sexual predator and a wife beater. I'm pissed at this team. You know, I'll say it. I'm pissed, and my condolences and my thoughts are with the victims first and foremost. This is not about me. This is not about anyone else. This is, I mean, at the end of the day, this needs, my thoughts are with the victims. I hope that they find some sort of peace from this. But yeah, no, I've never been more disgusted at a team that, I've rooted for, and it makes it harder to be a fan. I don't want to say that, I feel like stuff has been tainted by this, but in some ways it has. I mean, I've seen Mavs fans say that it feels that the 2011 championship feels hollow, and I don't hold it against them for feeling that way. I mean, it's really difficult to still keep rooting for this team. I'll put it that way.
Again, I want to preface this, like, if any of these allegations are true, this is absolutely disgusting. And Yeah, Mark Cuban should go down heavily. There should be fines, there should be penalties. I don't know exactly what those might be, but they need a completely clean shop in that organization if these allegations are true. In terms of like what has been alleged, so obviously the team president, who's been, I guess, he's kind of denied. So again, we're not exactly sure like what's true, what's
Well,
not.
it's been denied, but I mean, like you look at the evidence, and I
Right.
mean, like it's been over an 18-year span, and the minute that he left the Mavs organization, he was fired within a month at Under Armour for the exact same behavior he was accused of.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's just
And
very
I'm not
clear.
here to
Yeah.
kind of debate like whether or not, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the
No,
facts.
no, no.
But, it doesn't look good because I know he has already apologized for kind of keeping that Mavs.com beat writer on staff because he said that he didn't want to fire him because he didn't want him to do the same thing at another workplace. That argument absolutely does not pass any sort of test. That is not a justification. I kept him on staff so I could keep an eye on him and monitor his behavior. No, that doesn't pass the test. That's not a good explanation. And I think he admitted that if he would have done it over again, he would not have kept him on staff.
Yeah.
So that doesn't lead you to believe that these allegations are not true. But yeah, I mean, it's not good. And do you think there's some people that are comparing this to Donald Sterling? Is this that bad? Because it's not like Mark Cuban directly doing it, but I mean, what do you think about like forcing him to
I
sell?
mean, at the same time, Mark Cuban has taken responsibility for his actions, or like not for his actions necessarily, but for the organization and for the culture that's been created, which is different from Donald Sterling because Donald Sterling had no sense of just like how horrendous his behavior was. But that also being said, I mean, I know there's been some people talking about like a first round pick being lost for this. I don't think it's that bad. I think that Mark Cuban has to step down as owner. I mean, we'll see. If they find out that he was lying about what he knew and when he knew it, I think that's when he should probably step down. But I mean, assuming that everything is that's been reported is correct, and that Mark Cuban's not lying about what he knew and when he knew it. I don't know. I don't want to say that it's not as bad as the Donald Sterling debacle, just because I mean, with the Donald Sterling one, that was just more so just a complete racist just still being in charge of an NBA basketball team, and that was just versus like someone like literally like hiring a known domestic abuser and as well as just someone that with the Usuri one, it's harder to know when Mark Cuban knew that Usuri was having this type of behavior. But I don't know if it's necessarily worse than that with Donald Sterling, and that says a lot about the situation, which definitely does bring into question whether or not Mark Cuban should still be owner of this team. Again, like I'm not going to defend this guy. Like as much as he's been kind of a dick throughout much of his tenure, he's not. I didn't think he was capable of this, but it's. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as the Donald Sterling incident, but it's not good. It's not.
Yeah,
good.
I'm along with you. So if it comes out that he knew, then that's my take on it is completely different versus like if he didn't know, and like certainly it's still not good because he should know, him being a hands-on owner and whatever reporting channels and management, like he should have known if he didn't know. But I see it two different ways in terms of my thoughts on Mark Cuban. But regardless, I think if they find out the culture and all that was true, then they need a completely like clean shop in the organization. I don't, every single person in a front office, human resources, whatever departments in the Mavs organization, they need to completely start over because that's just disgusting. And like, we can't have that in the league. And I'm sure that, I don't know, again, what types of penalties there will be, whether it's like a salary cap thing or you mentioned draft picks, but yeah, I have faith in the NBA. I feel like they handled this Donald Sterling situation appropriately. So I think Adam Silver and the NBA, they'll obviously conduct their own investigation, and whatever they find, I'm sure they'll come down hard. And have an appropriate penalty for what happened. But I guess that was the second controversy. The first one was the whole tanking.
Well, I mean,
thing.
it just feels germane at this point, considering the SI article. But yeah, no, I mean, Mark Cuban admitted to something that everybody knew, which was the Mavs were tanking. And it's not good to be doing that, especially when you consider, like, hey, look, these Mavs players are still putting in the effort to keep playing, to keep doing. They're not quitting on the season, but at the same time, too, like, I mean, especially after watching last night's game, like, there's no way you can't just admit that this team is not good, and they're really actively trying not to be good. I mean, he got fined $600,000 for mentioning that, for admitting that. So, I mean, you have to think the fine should be even bigger for what happened, according to the SI article. But I mean, like, I don't have any problem with it beyond just like what I mentioned before. And I think, yeah, the fine is fine, but it's really not the end of the world with that one.
Yeah, but see, my thing was, again, as a fan of a team that pretty much tanked for 4 to 5 years with the Houston Astros, there's a difference between you setting up your organization to not win with your front office, like acquiring players that aren't good, versus telling your players that like losing is our best option. To me, maybe this is idealistic. Your players on your team should still give their maximum effort when they're on the court, because there's still people paying good money to see them and watch them and provide entertainment to them. Like, there's a difference between you not having good players and the players still playing hard, but they're just not good enough and you lose, versus you telling your players, hey, let's not try hard. I mean, to me, that's two different things. And for him to tell players, that was so much worse than just setting up your organization to not succeed by not having good players.
I mean, I get that. I get that. At the same time, too, like, I just don't care. I really don't care. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's I'm just sort of numb due to everything else, but yeah, just really numb to it. So Dennis Smith Jr. competed in the dunk contest. He had the best dunk of the night, but got robbed. Team LeBron beat Team Steph Curry.
No, it was a good game, back and forth. They played defense.
It really was. Yeah, no, I mean, definitely splitting up the teams and at least putting some sort of like money for charity on the line was real good. Made them really feel like it meant something. And then, yeah, the Mavs ended up losing to the LA Lakers as they kept on tanking. Yeah, it was not a close game last night, and it was just, yeah. So I mean, to some extent, like, yeah, I get what you're talking about how it's like, hey, like, you know, as a fan, you want to see competitive basketball.
Why are you hating on Maxi Kleber, man? Maxi's trying his hardest.
Freaking awful. Just like, he can't play in the paint, he can't block out, he can't score. Why is he playing the 5? I don't understand. This team.
All right, let's talk baseball. Baseball. Hope springs eternal.
Yeah, no. So yeah, a few signings went down this past week. Eric Hosmer finally got signed to the San Diego Padres. I mean, yeah, AJ Preller loves his decently hitting first baseman. So, I mean, he also had Will Myers on the team, but I guess they're moving Will Myers back to the corner outfield. JD Martinez signs with the Boston Red Sox as the rich keep getting richer. And the Texas Rangers, they thought they had a deal with Sung Hwan Oh. That deal's off, so he's no longer a Ranger. But who they definitely did sign, though, was Jesse Chavez to a 1-year, $1 million deal, non-guaranteed major league deal. I mean, he's someone that, again, could be a relief pitcher or could start. Really, it's just another sort of depth signing, really not lighting it up. Yeah, I mean, the Rangers are the Rangers, so what about the Astros?
The world champion Astros got a kind of a blow, some bad news with Forrest Whitley, who's their top pitching prospect, suspended 50 games for this year for testing positive for a banned substance. We're not sure if it's performance-enhancing drugs. There's rumors that it's not. It's some other sort of banned substance. There was a report out of San Antonio that he had been given an unknown stimulant after driving home after attending a baseball game to keep him awake on his long drive back. So regardless of whatever it is, it's not good. He had a chance of making it onto the major league roster, maybe during September call-ups this year. More likely next year now, probably. But again, he's 20 years old, throws a mid to upper 90s fastball, and is regarded as the top line starting pitcher whenever he makes it to the major leagues. So that's not good for him to be out for 50 games this year. As far as on the field, the Astros started their spring training yesterday. They beat the Washington Nationals 3-2. Max Stassi hit a 2-run homer, and so did J.D. Davis, who hit a homer. So they started their games. As I mentioned last week, no real kind of spring training battles in terms of position players. I think the starting rotation is going to be something to watch going forward. And then, of course, the left-handed reliever in the bullpen. And also, I guess on the JD Martinez signing, signing for 5 years, $110 million. So it seems like a lot of these players, their dreams of whatever contracts that they thought they were getting are pretty much gone at this point. As Martinez, I think earlier this offseason wanted $200 million, which I think was outrageous, and definitely no team bid on that. And he just kind of took whatever he could get at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and like, look at the San Diego signing. That's 8 years, $144 million. Like, yeah,
that's not
what a big disappointment. Yeah, no, but I mean, at the same time, like from a player perspective, like I don't understand why anyone would be mad about that. But yeah, let's also just briefly mention the Rays. They're also tanking, so it looks like both Florida teams are not going to be good this year. They got CJ Cron for cash, DFA'd, and then they trade Corey Dickerson to the Pirates for Daniel Hudson for reasons I don't understand. Then they trade Odorizzi, who was a decent pitcher, to the Twins for Palacios, Jermaine Palacios, who's really just a utility infielder. But then they turn around and they signed Carlos Gomez for a 1 year, $4 million contract. Let's move on to shoutouts. First shout out to the Dallas Stars. They are back at the wild card number 1 after losing 2 games this week. Lost a really bad game against San Jose 5-2, and then they got shut out by Anaheim. But then they turned around and shut out the Kings on the back end of the back-to-back the next day after Anaheim. Yeah, I mean, again, this offense is really inconsistent, especially since like they don't really have any secondary scoring. But I mean, at the end of the day, too, like it's they're still pretty much in the driver's seat when it comes to making it into the playoffs, and they just gotta focus on that. Also, in other hockey news, U.S. women's hockey won team gold in the 3-2 on shootouts versus Canada. I prefer shootouts to decide it. Whether or not I don't know if they necessarily should do that in the NHL playoffs, but I mean, like, I prefer that in the Olympics, just because, again, I think that really increases the drama of it. Yeah, what do you want to add?
So some MLS shoutouts. FC Dallas. They did not start off their season well. They lost the first leg of their CONCACAF Champions League round of 16 series to Taro FC 1-0 down in Panama. They wasted chance after chance in the first half, which is shades of 2017, because that was a big problem they had last year. They just couldn't score in front of the net when they got opportunities. And then in the second half, Jesse Gonzalez had a goalkeeping blunder off of a corner kick where he should have had an easy save on a header, but it went right through his hands and it went into the net. So FC Dallas is going to have to come back as they come back home next Wednesday for the second leg of that series against Taro FC. As far as the Dynamo, they continue their preseason. They've done pretty well at that Tucson preseason tournament. They're playing in the finals today. They're trying to win back-to-back Tucson preseason tournaments, and they came out with a really nice looking black alternate kit this week. It has some orange stripes down the middle, which are different shades. So it's kind of a pays homage to the Astros Tequila Sunrise jerseys back in the day, which I think is a nice touch from them. Other shout outs, other news, Austin Dillon, shout out to him for winning the Daytona 500, driving the number 3, of course, was very famous with Dale Earnhardt Sr. driving that car for the longest time. And then a final shout out is kind of an announcement that this is our final show for now. We are signing off after 67 episodes, and I just want to thank everyone that has ever listened to the show. We especially want to thank our special guest hosts that we've had over the past year and a half, in Evan Tenenbaum, Kevin Hahn, and Tejas Prasad. And I want to thank you, Nathan. It's been an enjoyable time. Talked about a lot of different sports. We went through the Astros winning their first ever world championship, a lot of NBA, and a lot of scandals in sports. And it's been very enjoyable. And I want to thank you just for coming up with me every Saturday morning and talking sports. It's been real fun.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same, but no, it's been good. It's been fun. Yeah, no, it's been great talking with you. I can't you and everyone else we've talked with. I can't imagine talking sports with anyone else. So yeah, no, it's been great. It's been a great run. But yeah, it's just sort of time to move on to some extent. This may not be then. We might pick it up sometime later on in the future, but I mean, at this point, we're just thankful for the people that we've been able to talk to for a little bit, and just been decent.
Yeah, and we might come out with some random like special episodes sometimes. Like, for example, the Rockets are in the finals. I kind of want to talk about that.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch, man.
No, I'm not. I still have the Houston sports fan in me, but in terms of just the time commitment, the financial commitment, we just thought that right now wasn't a good time for either of us, and we're just gonna kind of leave it where it has been, and it's been quite good. So again, yeah, thanks Nathan for everything.
No problem, man. Thank you too, man.
Our website will be up for 2 more weeks, so you can visit it at twnatesonsports.com. You can also listen to our episodes on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, and Google Play Music for that period of time. And all our episodes will be on our YouTube channel at Two Nates on Sports. So you guys can continue to visit us there. And then we have our Facebook page at Two Nates on Sports. So Nathan, for now, thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you then, man.